Hey guys, we are back. The October market snapshot has now turned into the October by the way, sponsored by, if you will, Cobalt Property Management, our sister company, who we've kind of blended into our 2021 real estate market forecast. But what are we doing here? We're doing our eviction moratorium update. For those of you that have been waiting for this and following this, quite honestly, you're probably going to be a little disappointed at the end of this video because there is still a lot of uncertainty going on out there. So let's just jump right in. So here we go. So, federal is done. We talked about that last month. The CDC was overridden by the Supreme Court. We don't really have to worry about any sort of federal moratoriums going on out there. So anything you see that's outside of California, you can ignore. It's meaningless. The state definitely need to keep an eye on what's going on in the state of California. And also, as important, if not more important, is the local. By last count, I think there's at least seven individual municipalities that have their own program going on. And by the way, you can just assume that that program is more restrictive, or let's put this a little different way, more in favor of tenants' rights than landlord rights in those individual cities and counties. LA County is a good example, Alameda County is another, and a few more. So state, we're not going to focus at all, by the way, on local or federal. Federal's done, local, super important, but we're only going to focus on the state right now. So we've been hanging on, I already covered that. We've been hanging on by our fingernails. What was going to happen on September 30th with the moratorium? Once again, we are coming up to the week leading up to September 30th. I'm watching the news. I'm watching every possible piece of information I can get, and it is crickets out there. Just nothing. Nothing on the news, nothing on the newspaper. I've subscribed specifically to the Los Angeles Times for one reason and one reason only. What's going on with this? There was basically nothing in the Los Angeles Times last week leading up to what's going on with the moratorium, which to me thought, okay, nothing in the news. They're going to let the moratorium expire, which they did, by the way. It ended. If you didn't catch the word here, operative word, moratorium ended. So we got to September 30th. There was no extension. It is officially over. Now, I think I may owe you guys a little bit of an apology because I may have been putting a little bit too much emphasis on the actual date where these moratoriums were ending, leading many of you to believe that, oh, when the moratorium ends, everything is back to normal. And I got to tell you, as the moratorium ended last, I think it was Friday or Saturday, and I started to kind of prepare for what we were doing today, I realized very quickly that I maybe have given you guys a little bit of false hope. Moratorium's over, everything's great. It's not, okay? Things change, but as I think my next slide says, is yeah, it's truly a case of the more things change, the more they stay the same, all right? We are kind of going from a plan A to a plan B. Now, I'll give you a couple of distinctions. This video would need to be over an hour long, and we're not. We're only going to give you a little bit more, and then we're going to put some summaries together, and then you guys need to reach out to us individually if you have a property you want to sell, or if you've got a property that you're having trouble with, an eviction or whatever it happens to be, because it's truly complicated. But this is the deal. The moratorium is over. That's great. However, if you go way back, okay, to last year in 2020, or if you go back to our real estate market forecast back in March of this year, we spent some time talking about AB 1482. AB stands for Assembly Bill. This is a California State Assembly bill that was signed into law by Governor Newsom. It is the California Tenant Protection Act. I've read all of it. I think it's probably about 60 pages, a lot of mumbo jumbo, but there's some pretty operative stuff in here. And these truly are the rules to live by. So this is the deal. The moratorium has ended. However, if you currently have a tenant that you want to evict for unpaid rent or back rent, it's not happening, okay? It's not going to happen. If you have a tenant that you are trying to raise rent on, that same rule applies that we've talked about previously. You got that 10% minus rule, no more than 10%. Certain things need to happen. But the bottom line is we're going to be dealing with, if you currently have a tenant you're having trouble with, or if you have a property you want to sell today that's tenant occupied, we still have these rules that we're going to have to play by. And I'll just give you an example. If you had a tenant that you wanted to evict right now, not for past due rent, okay? You're trying to sell your house, you have a just cause reason, you'd have to give them the 60-day notice. By the time this thing got through the court, which, by the way, you know, I'm going to steal a phrase from Rick from our market forecast. Rick Hoffman said, "We've never done this before." He was talking specifically about forbearances on mortgages. Well, guess what? We've never done before. We've never come out of an eviction moratorium before. So here we are coming out of this moratorium, but we've got to follow AB 1482 and everything that goes along with it. But one of the things we've also never done is all of the courthouses and the procedures and stuff need to be fired back up. I was talking with Barry O'Connor's office 2 days ago, and depending upon what courthouse you are in, very well may depend upon the speed. Apparently, the Moreno Valley Courthouse is way behind. The courthouse in Corona, Inland Empire, is moving things on a little bit faster. So there's a lot of stuff to basically go through. And by the way, I think I left you hanging. 6 to 8 months right now. If you actually could proceed on an eviction, not for unpaid rent, that's not happening. We're not even going to be talking about those until we get into March of next year. So at any rate, a lot of stuff that we still got to go through. Like I said, I feel I'm going to leave a lot of people unsatisfied here at the end of this video because, hey, guess what? The moratorium's over, but still a lot of issues to deal with. Everybody still needs to be applying for the rent subsidies, the program, that 100% of your rent. Tenant has to apply, landlord has to apply. That's automatic. That hasn't changed. So I'll give you one little ray of hope, okay? For everybody that's placing a new tenant in their property after October 1st, so you've got a vacant house right now, you put a tenant in there today, right now, AB 1482 doesn't apply, okay? So in those cases, I don't want to say we're kind of back to square one or back to normal, but in those cases, yes, we don't have these restrictions and these rules we have to deal with. But for everybody else, unless you just placed a tenant in your property last week, we still have to deal with this. And the reality is we're going to be dealing with some challenges, frankly, at least for the next 6 months. So there you go. That's the latest. I know you have a lot of unanswered questions, so you know where to find us. Cobalt Property Management. We're all over the web and all those places where you would find us anyway. So give us a jingle if you have any questions. We will see you next month, and hopefully we'll have a little bit more clarity for you. Take care.